So today is reset day in EU, meaning it's actually really the first week where you can go and do a full 16 of 16 heroic clear. Now, I know many of you will be doing it in one night, many of you will be doing it over several days, but I would say on the basis that it's only week 2 of Terrace of Endless Springs, that will probably be the place that causes the most problems. Now, I am talking purely 10-man, so 25-man heroic. Like I've said in other videos, I do raid, but at weekends. But like our main raid team that we sort of push for on launch night is normally just our 10-man. Now, we did actually manage to go and do a full 16 of 16 heroic last night, and it took a little bit longer than what our normal raid time is. Our normal raid time's 3 hours, as in the amount of time that we're in the raid for, and it actually probably took about 3.5. So still not bad, especially when Terrace of Endless Springs took us far longer than we would have liked, because we've kind of one-nighted the last boss in each raid so far, whereas this one we had to go back and kill fresh in the morning, which was quite annoying. Obviously, at the time the raids launch, and on the basis that we're all EU players, or the vast majority of us are EU players, after a few hours of progress on bosses, everyone's tired and start making silly mistakes. The following day that we went back, it was literally a 2-shot on Sha, and I think it's really important that you understand the cadence of the fight, or should I say, the rhythm of the fight, because it is really just a dance. We'll get onto that in a minute, because I do want to give you some little tips and tricks and cheesy strats on, well, a couple of the bosses certainly that may very well get nerfed. I think one of them definitely will get nerfed, but while it's something you can do, you absolutely should know about it and you should be abusing it. Before we get any further, be sure to like and subscribe and come check me out over on Kick. I'm on kick.com/Scottejaye, streaming pretty much every night. I must admit, at the moment, outside of like the 4 or 5 raids I do a week, I am mainly playing retail, getting ready for midnight, but at the same time, you'll see plenty of MSV, Hoth and Terrace if that's what you want to see. Like tonight, actually. So come over there and say hello. But firstly, how is Terrace of Endless Springs? Now, honestly, the thing about this entire raid is really, if you can kill protectors, you can get to the last boss. Now, I know that's not really saying a lot on the basis there is only 4 bosses anyway, but Tsulong, as long as you've got a couple of healers that are pretty competent during the day phase, is not too difficult at all, and made even easier if you've got things like a Holy Priest to put Guardian Spirit up, or a Holy Paladin absolutely carries that fight, to be honest. And then Lei Shi, which is practically just free loot. Being completely honest, when it comes to Sha, it's the one boss out of tier 14 that we didn't actually kill on heroic on the beta. We had quite a rough time with it, but I feel like on live, after about 6 billion wipes, everything just kind of clicked. Starting with protectors, there's very little to say, to be honest with you. You need to kill Cal on last if you want to be doing elite so you can get the highest level of gear. Interrupting the water bolts because its splash damage is the most important thing, and then having people very competent at moving out and taking stacks from the small lads. Obviously, that goes without saying, that's the main mechanic of the fight. Now, what we do personally is have 3 groups set up that are the primary groups that we want at 8 to 9 stacks before we get to the last phase, and then we have 2 filler groups, which is our group 4 and 5, which is mainly just healers and tanks that are just focusing on taking the stacks at the end, so everyone can just focus on pumping the boss, and if they're on 8, then they get a refresh. This fight is literally all about communication. It might seem like there's a lot going on, but having done it on 25 heroic and 10 heroic, I can honestly say on 10 heroic it is just far, far easier without having people running around like headless chickens and just controlling the fight. I know lots of old tactics where you would have 2 designated people that are dealing with the ads and then people would move in to get buffed, but we don't do that. We literally just have the people that are assigned to get stacks at the time are the people that go out and kill the ads. That means all of that extra damage bonus that everybody's got from having stacks is not wasted on killing ads. They're being able to just pump into the boss, while yeah, the other 2 people that need their stacks can make sure they get their stacks by standing close to it when they kill it anyway. It kind of just eliminates any error. Again, when it comes to the last phase, one of your tanks is always going to be stood around doing practically nothing, so he might as well go out and actually kill those ads so everyone can focus on pumping the boss, and he'll kill it stood next to a healer, or he'll kill it stood next to maybe a DPS that died, like in our pool here, where he's now got absolutely no stacks, so he can literally take 9 ads in a row with the off tank. Now, this is the one fight where actually sacrificing a DPS at the end if you're struggling, I actually find quite beneficial. This pull in particular was made so easy with the Death Knight dying because it meant he had 0 stacks, so now it's just him and the tank running out and controlling the ads for a good 30, 40 seconds, whatever it's going to be, because they can go up to 9 stacks. In that time, the boss is going to die. I'm not encouraging you to actively make sure that someone's sacrificed, but I don't know, maybe it's not a bad idea. Now, when it comes to Tsulong, this is actually the boss that I do think will get this little cheesy mechanic nerfed. And I know what you're thinking. You're probably like, well, it's going to be you that gets it nerfed, Scott, because you're talking about it in a video. Well, I mean, it's all over the class discords and stuff, so unlucky. It doesn't make or break the fight, it just speeds it up a little bit. But when you're in the day phase, before you go into the night phase, if you have a warrior pop rally, it's going to increase the boss's health. Then when it goes into night phase and the health is inverted, it's still got the rally. And then when the rally falls off, you'll see like 15% of its health just drop. Now, I've actually studied this clip where we was doing it, and when you look at how much the health it would have been on anyway without the rally, and then you take the 15% off, it's a big benefit. So it's quite nice just going into the night phase and seeing the boss on, like, let's say 30%, and then a couple of seconds later, boom, 15%, and then you're just ending the fight. Again, this is a cheesy use of mechanics, and it probably will get fixed at some point, but for now, while it's like it, if you're struggling to get a kill when you're wiping in that night phase after a day phase for whatever reason whatsoever, and you've got a warrior, use this. Then on Lei Shi, the only thing that we do really differently to maybe everybody else, and I say there's probably not that many people doing it, is because in the stream I've had people come in and say like, why are you 3-tanking it, and wanting the whole thing explained. So I'll just explain it here. With Scary Fog that's around the boss, when you stand outside of that circle, you're going to get a stack, and that stack increases the damage of things taken inside your little circle around you by 10% per stack. That does include friendlies as well, so you don't want to stand near anyone, but we basically just have one marker, which is purple, which is dedicated to me. That's my area, you stay away from it all the time, but really it only matters during Getaway. Getaway's the special where it's pushing you away and you need to do about 4% health of the boss before it actually breaks. Now this is why we use a third tank, because you can have a third tank standing outside just building stacks constantly, and because you get that 7-second window where it pulses around every 7 seconds to refresh and give you an extra stack, you can actually roll in and out, use movement speed increases to get in and out, keep the damage buff up on the boss even with low stacks while going out and refreshing and getting additional stacks. It's great to have a Warlock gateway set up as well, so when Getaway starts you can just click on it and boom, the boss is debuffed straight away. But the other big added bonus to this is with the ads. Now yes, when you've got high stacks you do take damage, and it's damage over time, and you're taking more the higher stacks you are, so you do need a little bit of attention, but you can literally get to 20 stacks, well, quite quickly. And if you're then popping Lust towards the end of the fight, from about 20% to dead literally takes seconds, because your third tank will be on 20 stacks. But again, the added bonus is the ads. Because you're going to taunt just one ad out and you're going to CC all of the others, you've got 20 stacks on that ad now. The ad literally melts. It dies in seconds. In fact, you can just stun it and it will be dead probably by the time your stun wears off, as long as everyone's focusing on it. So yes, while you're losing one whole DPS to take a third tank, you're being able to maintain stacks a lot more reliably. You're being able to use those stacks at the exact time you want them with things like Getaway, and definitely using them on the ads. And then it just allows all your DPS to just stand there and pump, and they don't even need to worry about rotating in and out and then standing near the boss and then getting near the boss during Getaway. They can literally just treat it like a patchwork fight, more or less. So I'd say on Lei Shi, that's about the only thing that we do slightly differently. And then when it comes to Sha, now Sha, there's not really anything that you can do massively differently from somebody else. It's just understanding the dance at the end. So when it comes to doing Sha progress, if you haven't started yet, the key thing that you want to do is get the boss to 66%, so you can at least get the buff. Because when it pushes into the final phase, Lei Shi gives a buff that gives everyone 15% haste. Now, in our first kill, we actually got the haste buff and killed the boss at the same time, so we didn't benefit from being able to lust on the boss at the start while having the 15% haste for the platforms. Let me explain. Now, because it is actually quite tight to clear those platforms out and get back in time when you haven't got the 15% haste buff from Lei Shi, this is where you want to use Lust. And if you've got two lusts, that's even better. So if you've got a mage and a shaman, hopefully they go separately. Because then on the first platform, you can have your mage, say, use Time Warp. And then on the second platform, hopefully your shaman goes and he's going to be able to lust. This just means without that 15% haste buff that makes these platforms significantly easier, you don't need them. You're just going to be able to get those platforms down in a comfortable time frame to then come back. And on that third one, assuming your DPS is at least reasonably good, which on the basis you've got this far, I'm assuming it is, the next team that go can just stand there and just wait for everybody that's still on Sha to actually be able to push it into the next phase. So you only need to successfully do 2 platforms, and hopefully if you're lucky, you'll get Lust on both of those. Now, this just means if you wipe at this point now, you've got the 15% haste buff anyway, so it doesn't matter. You no longer need to use Lust on the platforms, you can just use it on the pool, because when you actually get into the second phase, Lust resets anyway. Now, the whole second phase, honestly, it's one big dance. I'm not going to break down all the mechanics, what you should be doing as a tank, what you should be doing as a DPS, because I'm assuming you probably know the basics of the fight if you're watching this video anyway. This is more just some tips, what got us the kills. So as you know, you're going to have adds slowly walking in, and the amount of those adds that there are ramps up over time. You're most likely already setting up a triangle, so you've got a range one side of the boss, a range the other side of the boss, and then what we call a reset point, which will form the point of the triangle. That's where we use our Warlock. We have a Warlock stood, let's say 20-25 yards behind the boss, and then we have a Shadow Priest on one side of the boss and a Mage on the other side. Now, when I say it's a dance, it's because everything happens in a very predictable set routine. So if we start from when the boss submerges and goes under, while he's coming back up, adds are walking into the boss. Now, you want to be throwing the orb between two people. So let's say in this case we're throwing it between the Mage and the Warlock, and they're just going to throw it every few seconds just to keep the adds really slow, because the adds reset their movement speed every time the orb's thrown, and while it's not being thrown, their movement speed gets increased. The reason we're doing this is because of the very predictable order of the abilities coming in. So while the adds are walking in, we know the next thing that we're going to get is Huddle. This is where we then need to throw the orb from person to person. In 10-man, there's going to be 3 people that you throw it to, and if you use Foges, they're labelled 1, 2, and 3. So literally, the Warlock or the Mage, whichever one happens to have the orb at the time while they're keeping the adds slowed coming in, will throw it to the person who's marked number 1. Number 1 throws it to 2, 2 throws it to 3, 3 then throws it back to our reset point, which is the Warlock, which is the one that stood furthest away from the boss. Now, it's at this point you can let the adds come in and only reset their speed if you need to. But now what the aim is just to throw the ball around between the 3 people to get the adds all coming in from one direction, and then they're just going to be thrown between the 2 points closest to the boss. So the adds are just walking backwards and forwards across the boss, so the tanks can more or less just kill them on their own, to be honest with you. But obviously, everyone should be cleaving them down. Because while the adds are out, one of your tanks are stood doing absolutely nothing because they've got the Naked and Afraid debuff. At that moment in time, they can literally just be pumping damage into the adds. Now, quite honestly, outside of looking for pulls on the floor and moving away from the spouts when they go off, that is the entire fight. You're going to do everything in that order over and over again, no matter how many adds there are. Realistically, you're probably going to kill the boss when there's about 6 adds at a time, which is absolutely fine. So going in order, you're going to get submerged, the boss comes back up. You're throwing the orb around between 2 people, keeping the adds slowed until Huddle goes out. Once Huddle goes out, you throw the orb around 3 times and then go back to your reset point. Then you're literally just letting the adds come in, throwing the orb from person to person next to the boss, and killing the adds with the boss. So just cleave, let your tank do the majority of the work, passive cleave, Windwalker monks with Storm Earth and Fire's really strong, just all that kind of thing. But literally, your only aim is to kill those adds before the next adds come in. So you don't need to full zerg those adds down. As in, you can focus on the boss, let the passive cleave hit the adds, and then when the boss submerges, finish them off. Because at the point the boss is submerged, all you're doing is moving into stack to bait the submerge in the position you want it, and then moving out of the submerge. At that point, you can be just nuking the adds down because there's nothing else to hit. So if you've got like 4 or 5 adds and they're all on 10% when it submerges, just don't worry about it. You know you'll be able to finish them while the boss is submerged. And again, then it's rinse and repeat. The boss comes up, keep the adds slowed, wait for Huddle to go out, throw the orb around 3 times, go back to your reset point, let the adds come in, throw the orb around, cleaving the adds down with the boss submerges, you now finish the adds off. It's literally that, just over and over again until the boss dies. The main thing is not to panic. Don't see the boss at like 15% health and then think, quick, pump the boss, ignore the adds. Don't. There's absolutely no point. There's no rush with this boss. Just keep controlling the fight. When the boss is on about 5%, there's no point worrying about the adds. Just have the 2 people throwing the orb backwards and forwards, but it's got a deceivingly large health pool, obviously. So even though it looks like it's only got 15% health, that's still going to take quite a long time. So again, you just don't panic. Just keep it controlled. But as long as you do that dance exactly how I just said, trust me, you will have an easier time in the last phase than you probably will have actually getting to the last phase. Now again, I do lots of 10-man heroic, more 10-man heroic than 25 because, as I said before, our 25-man heroic is literally just a weekend raiding guild. We've actually only got Sha left. We haven't killed Sha in the first reset, but I'm hoping we get it down this weekend, which means, yeah, week 2 clear in the 25-man heroic group. like, I'll take that. But if there's any bosses you're struggling with, just jump over to the stream, kick.com/Scottejaye, as I said before. Let me know which bosses you think people would benefit from actual little tips and tricks and guide. This is not really a guide, it's more tips and tricks. But if there's any bosses that you would benefit from, either let me know in the comments, come tell me on stream, whatever. But if you enjoyed the video, as always, be sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.